I need.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
How are you, Michelle?
I am good. I am so excited to be with both two people. This is the first time I'm ever interviewing two people at once. At first, I thought we were going to have three screens going at once, and I was envisioning that. And then when I saw you both in the same room, I'm like, thank you for making my life easier. I appreciate that, as usual, as usual. So I'm joined today, ladies and gentlemen, by two amazing powerhouse women who honestly have impacted my life, particularly when I was first starting Empower. And their names are both Melanie Neumann and Erica Fisher, and they are the founders of an organization, a nonprofit organization called Present Now. And Present Now is amazing because it actually impacts children who have been affected by domestic violence. And they support these children by providing them gifts. Some of these children have actually never received a gift in their life before. And honestly, as I articulate that in my core, it makes me want to cry. And saying that, these two women have impacted me because I was with them in their early years of founding this organization, and when they expanded larger to having some of these women's only events, that we used to do in Palm Springs. And wow, what a bonding time! But also just to hear these women's stories that they are making a positive impact on. We should all be so lucky to know these two beautiful women here in front of us. Well, you're amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here's the deal. Present Now is currently in, you said 11 states, okay? Yeah. And you've impacted over 7,000 families?
Correct.
Or children?
Families.
Wow, that's amazing. And your organization has been around over 10 years or just over 10 years, correct? So I can remember the very beginning and just being in awe with, wow, these two powerhouse women have launched this amazing organization. I want to be a part of what they're doing. So if you can actually tell me and our audience a little bit more about how did you come up with this? Honestly, it was just a seedling of an idea. I remember that. I'm like, so it's as simple as that. You're just going to give gifts to kids? And wow, it's that easy. Well, everything seems easy, but we know it's not.
Right.
So tell us about that. I'd love to hear from both Melanie and you, Erica, a little bit about your background and how you all got started.
Perfect. Yes, sure. I'll go. So thank you for having me on your podcast, Michelle. I was originally trained as a social worker in New York before I moved to Los Angeles, and that was about 15 years ago, and was working in the industry and then had children, and actually Melanie and I met at our kids' preschool and was sort of in this transition at the time. You're having kids, your identity is changing as a mom. At least I felt like my identity was changing. I wanted to be present for my kids while also do something for myself that was a mental exercise. And because of my social work roots, wanting to give back in some way. And it was really born out of Present Now, for me, was really born out of this friendship between Melanie and I that started, and then talking about our dreams of still impacting some population. Yeah. And we did a lot of research. I mean, that's where we went. We came up with an idea basically of maybe we should start a nonprofit. And then once
was this over drinks?
It was over lunch.
Yeah. The first was a lunch, and then the second one was drinks and dinner. Right. That was the next step. Right.
So you want to go and just introduce yourself,
absolutely.
And then we can go from there?
Of course.
Okay.
Again, thank you, Michelle. I do remember
course.
our very beginnings of Empower and Present Now, helping each other and really taking off, which congratulations to you too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So a little bit about my background. I also moved to New York right out of college and worked in the advertising world. And then for 2 years, and then in 2000 moved to Los Angeles and was also doing, also have a theater background. So I was doing some acting at the time, but eventually knew that, someday I wanted to have kids. And anyway, I found myself from advertising, working in the nonprofit world here in LA. And so I worked for the Avon Walk for Breast Cancer, muscular dystrophy, doing event planning, and then had my 3 kids, met Erica at the kids preschool at 10th Street Preschool in Santa Monica. And we connected. And, thinking back and looking at some of the questions that you had said, maybe we'll talk about, you talk about opportunity. And I think a lot of times, when you know who you are, but you surround yourself and you put yourself in places with like people. And I feel like that was like the biggest opportunity of meeting Erica and us having, similar but different backgrounds, and then coming together. And as she said, I knew someday I wanted to have a nonprofit of my own supporting children in some way. And so when we started talking about it, it felt like, oh my gosh, I have someone who shares this same dream, and I love to collaborate. And we've worked so well together, like knock on wood somewhere. I mean, it's been 10 years and people say, oh, don't work with your best friend, but it's been pretty incredible.
It really has.
Right.
It really has.
And what a blessing. I mean, really you guys are tapping into the power of community and a network. And I think that's a shared value of the 3 of ours is that beautiful gift to build community and bring people together for meaningful reasons.
What's interesting, Michelle, I'll just mention this too, is that along those same lines is our girls at preschool, I was morning, I think you were afternoon. So the reason that we met was we were in a mommy group with the director of the preschool.
Yes.
And it would meet once a week, and you would go up to the director's office, and it was 90 minutes long. And these moms would sit around the table and emote.
Yes.
Basically.
As women do.
As women do. But it was both of us sort of putting ourselves out into the community in a really vulnerable way. That's then we connected through that. And then the friendship became what it is, and then present now became what it is as well. So it really did start originally through sort of this feeling of wanting to connect with our community.
Well, I love the fact that you brought up the word vulnerability. It's interesting. I was just doing something yesterday and I was talking about vulnerability because for women, so many women have trouble showing that vulnerability. And what a gift that because you actually, speaking of presence, right? That because you guys showed that vulnerability to one another, it allowed you to connect on a deeper level. What a gift. That's amazing. Do you feel like that comes naturally for the 2 of you?
Showing vulnerability?
Yeah.
No, not for me. I don't think it comes naturally. I think I absolutely have to force myself to do it. As an adult, I do, but I work very hard at that. It's a conscious effort, sometimes on the daily for me to show up genuine. To show up in touch in the present moment, to show up exactly being okay with who I am, and being okay showing people who I am, and then letting go.
I could see those things about you. I can remember in our early stages, because you're actually a processor, like you're assessing, like while you're kind of working with people. And so I remember, oh, this woman's about trust, that we're going to have to figure out our connection with one. I knew we liked each other for sure, but it was more like, you were like, okay, how smart is she? But I love that about you because I mirror that same sentiment. It manifests differently. Like I initially am more like, people think I'm just like being friendly and everything, which I am, but I'm also like, let's see how this goes.
Right. Yeah.
Very funny. So tell me a little bit more about the original inception. So you guys go to this dinner and you say to yourselves, all right, let's start a nonprofit focused on kids. Like, where did you start?
Well, this is we talked about our background, social work, nonprofit, advertising, and then, a little bit of preschool fundraising along the way. And so we didn't have any business knowledge to, how do you even start? We literally Googled how to form a nonprofit.
Literally.
Love that.
Put that into the computer.
Right. Like, what do we need to do? We knew we needed to get a 501c3. Like, we knew all of that.
Thank God for Google.
Right. Right. And then we started to gather people in our networks who we were like, okay, well, I have my accountant is in Pasadena. He might help us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It was really that part of it. We really just asked around and asked friends and friends of friends. So that part was really us learning along the way. And then as far as, finding what type of children, I mean, we went and set up a tour at Good Shepherd Shelter, which was our very first shelter.
Interesting.
Yep, they were lovely. And they gave us the tour of the entire facility, they also have a school on the campus.
Yeah.
And so
That's beautiful.
yeah. And so we got to see, the kids there. We got to see the moms doing, they were in classes and, doing all the things to take care of themselves. And we both literally left there and looked at each other and said, these are the kids, they're silent victims of domestic violence. And, how can we, we're not going to solve the issue for them, but how can we bring them joy? While they're there in these transitional shelters up to 2 years sometimes. And so how can we make a connection through the mother to the child, a few times a year during their stay, that they can actually feel like, wow, there's someone thinking about me. My mom is here. She's giving me this gift. More likely than not, she wouldn't have been able to do that financially on her own, or just, in the state that she's been living in. And so that was really, we walked out and we said, okay, this is what we want to do. How are we going to do it? And we came up with our 3 gifts that we give these children during the year. We do a gift on Valentine's Day, which we call Presents of Love, which is always like a digital electronic learning device of some kind. We give each child a birthday gift on their birthday, which is created uniquely for them by age and sex. And in that is a new book, a new outfit, a new toy, a gift card for the mom to take them to a special birthday dinner, and also a cake, frosting, spatula, and candles so that she can make them a birthday cake. Which, like you had said in the beginning, Michelle, the thought for us of not being able to provide a simple birthday gift, let alone a party or a cake,
Yes.
I mean, heartbreaking.
Yes.
I mean, every child deserves that and should have that. And so,
and have those amazing built-in memories with their mother.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Yep. And then our final gift is Presence of Mind, which we give them a brand new backpack with new school supplies in August before school starts, because that's another time of the year that, the kids, your confidence level, just even having a backpack walking into school, you stand a little taller.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
those are the 3 gifts. They're all in the same white box with purple ribbons so that they remember, where they came from. And that's kind of how we got started with the actual Presence program.
So did you have like a business plan, or was this more like, the amazing thing is with our viewers, you have all different kinds of people, right? You have the people that started with the business plan and are all structured. And then you have these different entrepreneurs that just have an idea and are like, let's get started and then we'll do the business plan. And some of the most successful businesses are built that way. But what was your take? Like, what did you find helpful so that others can learn through the 2 of you?
So it's such a good question. And I think that, and, correct me if you feel differently, but it feels like we were sort of somewhere in the middle. We weren't flying blind, definitely not, because we're both very organized type A people. But I think one of the best things about the way that we processed is it was a very slow and deliberate, the way that we made decisions. we were never afraid to ask for help when we needed it, whether it was literally Googling
Yeah.
a question. We still Google questions. You know, what is the average of this?
Right.
What is the average of that? I mean, you start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. So, and you know, we weren't, there was no complete business plan going into it, but I think in terms of, and it's a little bit different because it's a charity, that we wanted to make sure the most important thing to us was to make sure that what we decided the presents were going to be was actually what the kids needed.
Absolutely.
So
instead of just stuff they might throw away, or you know,
are we meeting a demand? Are we meeting a need?
yes.
And that was number one. And once we established that, then we could sort of build around it. And I think as we grew, it was always very deliberate and very slow. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago that we actually did a strategic plan. That was it. We now have a 5-year plan, and that was
that's a big deal.
It was about year 8 that we said we've now grown to a point where we need to be strategic now. We need to, and a part of that came along with hiring an executive director, which we did in year 7. Was it year 7?
That's a big deal too. Those are huge steps for nonprofits.
You sort of start you start in infancy and you go through the steps, much like a child. Like it was, you know, the present now was sort of a toddler for a little bit. You know, we were figuring it out, and then you have some stability and you realize, okay, we've matured.
Right.
We can now hire an executive director.
Well, it's like we started, not to interrupt you, but we started in our garage and in our dining room, which it's funny, we're in our dining, not right. We worked in yours for a while, now we're in mine, but like it literally, we didn't have an office for the first 4 years, you know? And so
we made it work no matter what. I mean, I think that no matter what, we had each other to lean on.
Which is beautiful.
It was
so nice to have a partner.
Yes. And we got, like Melanie said, I don't, you know, we've never had a ton of tension. I would say one of the best things too, that I've learned through this relationship is there's been a few times where neither one of us has budged. Where she has a feeling about something and I have a feeling about something, and we've looked at it from left, right, up and down, and neither one of us is willing to budge. And you know what we do? We go to a third party.
I love that. But by the way, that's healthy.
Yeah.
It's healthy to get an alternative opinion and somebody who will actually sit and be a bystander and listen.
Totally. And that has only happened
a couple times. Yeah, maybe twice, once or twice.
Yeah.
But I think that's because there's your relationship is built on the foundation of mutual respect. And I've watched the two of you where it's funny. One of my questions was going to be, how do you actually separate the work between the two of you? And it was interesting for me to hear sort of once we started talking about a bit of finances. I saw Erica, you kind of took a little bit of a leadership role in the conversation right now, but I don't know that. It's funny because we've never had that conversation, probably because I'm usually attending the party and talking or something. But my question is actually, how do you divide the workload? Because, you know, they say, like for me as a solopreneur, I mean, I worked in huge teams my whole career. I miss people. Like, thank God I work with people, but I miss working with people. And you know, like you don't always want to be the one in charge, right? Sometimes you just want to be like, I'm like talking to my shoulders half the time, you know? So in your case, like, how do you guys separate it?
Well, it's funny because you really did nail that, Michelle. I mean, when we first started, it was kind of like, okay, so you were called the banker.
I was the
banker. And then eventually when we hired someone in year 3, or
she was HR.
I was HR. And so it was, you know, and so that's how we've kind of just separated along the way, but yet everything's been collaborative. There was no big decision made that neither one of us didn't agree on. And now we're lucky enough to have our executive director, and we sit as board chairs, co-board chairs. And so we sit on all the committees, and we kind of still work that way, but it's more behind the scenes, which is
Interesting.
which is, I think that's the natural progression and the only way this was going to grow. So,
So
And
once you have like I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to add on and to connect also with what you were saying, Michelle, is I think one of the reasons that it has also worked, there is mutual respect. And I think we've also always valued our priorities. So as important as President Now was, our friendship, our families was the most important thing.
Yeah.
So if we planned something and something came up that was important with one of my children, there was no questions asked. Melanie would step in and take care of it, and vice versa. And so there was the foundation was sort of very, very solid. And anything on top of that was an opportunity, it felt like a privilege to be able to do it.
I love how clear that is, because I think that that doesn't always happen. Meaning, like, usually in some relationships, one person's priority becomes in their mind like more important. And I love the fact that you mentioned family as being the priority, because as we know, as mothers, multiples, right, that there's always something coming up that we are not able to completely follow through on. And I love the fact that there's no questions asked.
No.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful understanding.
Yeah. When we first moved into our office, we made it a point. We said, okay, we will drop our kids at school, then we will come in, and then we will be done in time for pickup or to be home for the bus. Like that was just, and we're blessed and lucky to be able to be able to do that back then. So yeah, that has been, we've been
But
very.
let me ask you a question. It's not to say that you're not working after you pick up your children, correct?
No.
So tell me about how that works. Because I think sometimes, so I'm sure in the younger years, the agreement was you pick up your kids and like you have your time with your kids, and like it's probably clear, right? But as you start to grow, and like you said, now you're in more of a board seat and you're lucky enough to have an executive director. But tell me about those interim times where you're not completely solid yet with employees. When you had your big events coming up, how did you handle that?
I think it's kind of what we had talked about. We definitely, we couldn't have done it alone. And if we needed to, we knew too, what we do is very like, there's a pattern, right? We've got Valentine's Day. We know when that's going to be busy.
Yep.
Backpack, like the year we kind of, it worked out and planned out the way that we could also, understand what's coming up and how are we going to plan for that?
I love that. Plan.
Yeah,
Plan.
Important.
Lots of planning.
Lots of planning.
Structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like, again, like we learned as we went along, and we're both flexible. We're both very flexible people. And so, I'm not going to say there weren't nights after the kids were in bed or after dinner that we weren't on the phone, the month leading up to the event, for sure. And even now, like the event, our big event is April 22nd, a month away. And so we've been on the phone a lot. And I don't know, I hate saying we just make it work, but it just kind of has. And are without sacrificing our priorities too.
So the word that kind of seems to come up for me is really around commitment, is that you are committed to the growth of your company and seeing yourself follow through it, whatever it takes. Not in a, it sounds, I know you're both type A perfectionists, as you guys have indicated, but you're not going to jeopardize your health, is what I'm hearing also.
No, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
Or mental health.
Exactly.
Physical health, mental health. Yes.
Exactly. Like, because one of the things that I've always admired about the two of you, going back to clarity and being clear, is that you do set yourselves also as a priority as far as loving life and enjoying life, not just it being about work and, And I think if you can share a little bit about that and why you set yourself as a priority, because like you're dealing with people that frankly are in mental health crisis often. So just tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I can say, I don't know why this keeps coming up for me, but I think two things. One, yes, a sense of responsibility balanced with sort of we not taking ourselves quite so seriously either. I mean, we laugh a lot to the point where we hired our executive director, and the first 6 months or so, it was during COVID, and we would have Zoom meetings, and I feel like we were like goofing off a little bit.
Totally.
Yeah.
And she's like, we have this and this and this to get through. And we're like, okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we'll refocus.
Right.
And so
We shifted.
we did.
shifted.
I mean, it became, the friendship changed a little bit in that we could
became more professional.
We became more professional when we were doing work, and we got goofier when we were just being friends, you know?
Very true.
We would walk every Monday and catch up as friends, so that then when we came to the table to do work, we were ready to do the work. Because before it was sort of, we would move in and out of it. If we were at the office for 4 hours from 10 to 2, sometimes we would be laughing and goofing off, and other times we were very diligently working, and it was sort of this ebb and flow. I think for me, that's how going back to community, going back to, spending that time with a friend fed my soul. That then, and I'm very lucky to be in a very happy, healthy marriage, that I could go home and I felt like I was giving back. I felt like I connected with another mom, another woman. And then I could go home and be a wife and a mother. And, again, like with family coming first, it was the same with mental health. Like if you need to work out, go work out. Do what you need to do to work through your mental stuff, so that then we can go out and help other people, because again, it's a privilege to be able to do it.
Yeah, I love what you're describing, and again, like the word that just keeps coming up for me for both of you is really just, you're super clear about what you're trying to create. And the other thing that you're talking about a lot, which I talk a lot about, is routine and systems and structure. Those 3 words, I love them. But the thing about the routine that you're talking about, I love even just the simplicity of what you're describing, that we decided that we would walk first and have fun as friends and connect that way before, so that when we came to the table, we were ready to work. Because what happens a lot of times is people don't take that time, and then they work, and then they don't actually get some of those conversations out that they need to have before they get to their work table. So it could create like not very good boundaries, or not, effective ways of connecting with one another, or communicating. So that's beautiful. So tell me, what's next for Present Now? Like, what's the goal? Like when you think about the growth and you're like 10 years in, and now we're in 7 states,
11 states.
Oh, sorry, 11 states, 7,000. I got it all mixed up. I was actually surprised to hear that, before we got on the call. I was like, wait, where have I been? I guess it's been COVID.
Yeah.
So tell me what's been happening. What are we doing? What do I need to support you with?
Everything.
I'm ready.
Always have.
That's right.
Right.
Just continue.
Right. It's interesting, Michelle, because I feel like we're getting ready for this event. Yesterday, Lillian, our executive director, sent us a text, and she said, we need your letter. We always put a letter from the 2 of us in the program book, thanking everyone, a personal letter. And you texted me, and she says, can you believe we're ready to write the letter for the 10th year? Like it's been 10 years. And
I cannot.
I have to pinch myself, because it doesn't feel like that. It's gone so fast. But like looking back, we never would have I mean, we just wanted to, at one point, we were like, how cool would it be if we could just support all the shelters in California?
Yeah.
That was the first goal, right? Like we started with 2 in 2012, and now to say 11 states and 60 plus shelters, like
Crazy.
that did not even seem like that was going to be possible. But I think, as we've grown, and as Erica said, the way we've grown, it's been very thoughtful, and we've only done what we can do, and then we shoot for more as we keep going. And
Mhm.
there really are, I mean, there's only 800 transitional shelters in the
Wow.
country.
Who
Right.
knew?
It's not a lot. And so, I think the goal is to continue what we're doing. I think to continue, the path, and we do have a 5-year plan that we want to be in a certain number of shelters by 2025. And, I think with the help of our executive director and our board and everyone who's been supportive, I mean, we're just going to keep expanding and keep doing what we're doing, and not changing what we're doing. What we're doing, the presence program works.
That's
We've, we've,
amazing.
we've, we've done surveys with the moms in the shelters, and the feedback has just been over the moon. I mean, it's been, like 92% of the kids are more confident in school to receive our gifts. So we have that data. So we know it's working. And so I think to be able to continue to grow and reach those goals that we've set, I mean, that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
I also think what you just brought up is so important too, in terms of the recipe for success, is
Mhm.
that we did set out with a certain mission, and we have really honed that, and we've tried different, we have some other programs that we're doing. We do a Presence of Joy program with teens. But I think part of the reason it's been as successful as it has and impactful as it has is because we have really stayed true to the initial mission.
Mm.
And that has always been something. When we brought on our executive director, that was one of the first things that we talked about. Like, this is sort of non-negotiable. This is working. This is what
Mhm.
we set out to do. And keeping that laser focus, I think, has allowed us to be as successful as we have been and raised as much. I mean, the message hasn't changed.
Mhm.
If anything, domestic violence has increased.
I
And
know,
so,
especially probably during COVID.
horribly,
Way
Totally.
off the charts. Yeah. What
horribly.
percentage is it, by the way? It'd be an interesting thing to know.
And during the pandemic,
During the pandemic and then now after,
I
or
actually don't know.
if
I
there
don't
is
know
an after.
offhand. They've coined it the silent pandemic, because there were millions of women that were quarantined with their abuser, and
Right.
shelters had to shut down in the
Mm.
beginning of COVID. And so I do think that staying on message, it gives a sense of momentum in and of itself,
Absolutely.
and I think people have a tendency to try to do too much. We're really clear on what we're doing.
Mhm. You're consistent. You're consistent about your messaging, so therefore people can buy in. And I would agree with that. It's like you, as a, it's not really a consumer, but as a supporter, right? Or as a, somebody who's supporting your organization, the milestones that you can buy in at any given time. So then you feel that it's not like you can't make an impact, because you can make a small impact, or you can actually step in and make a much greater impact. Um, I have another question for you about nonprofits, because I also have been on the board of different nonprofits, but most nonprofits are not profitable, correct?
Mm-mm.
Um,
Correct.
because I think, I'm not sure what the statistic is, but there's something about like that, in like they don't actually make money always. And I know that's not the case in your situation. Because I think that there's like a large percentage of them that get started, but they don't continue. And it's because they can't garner the support that you guys have been able to generate in momentum. So I guess my thought around that was just really, what do you think allows people to continuously come back to your organization?
I think people connect not necessarily, not everyone connects to the cause. A lot of people do. But I think people connect with when you're saying simplicity and we're talking about what we're doing, and it's, you can see it's tangible. You can see we have volunteers in the office. We welcome everyone. We have over 200 volunteers that come in, different age ranges. You make this box, you pack this gift, you see it in action when it is delivered, and then we hear the stories. And so you really understand, and it does hit home. Oh my God, like I am making a difference here. And I also think that over the years, the people who do support us are wonderful people, grounded people who believe in a lot of different nonprofits, and then believe in, what we're doing and the passion that we have. And I feel like they're also very passionate. But it is true, Michelle, like not very few nonprofits can continue. But there's also, we've gotten into the stage, and we're continuing on of finding new people, new supporters, new blood, and with expansion, that's kind of been, the great part of that too, is that we're in different states, we're connecting with people all over the country who are learning about what we're doing. And there is no other nonprofit that does what we do.
That's what I was going to say. You have a very unique point of differentiation. Yeah.
There's so many amazing nonprofits that give supplies and things, but like the personalized, for this particular child, given to them by their mother, like 3 times a year for 2 years, like the program, we're really the only one. So in that, we're doing great work.
What if you were in a state and you're listening to this and you're in Alaska, and say you're not currently represented in Alaska, but you wanted to start your own Present Now location? Is that something that you're open to? And is like, how does the growth happen? Like, so you're like, we're in these 11 states, but would you be open to being in all, 55 states? Yeah.
Yeah. We've tried a few things in terms of piloting in smaller cities. And right now where we've landed, so if you happen to be in Alaska, you can go on our website.
We are in Alaska.
We actually are in Alaska.
Alaska actually
Yes.
has one of the highest rates of domestic violence of any state.
I was going to say that. I think it's because of the weather, right? Too.
Maybe.
Part of it. Maybe.
And the demand is the highest there. So you can go on, and we actually have an enrollment period for shelters to apply to be part of our Presence program. And if we can't support you and you go on and you do the full application, you automatically get rolled onto the wait list. So right now, I think we have about 11 or 12 on the wait list, that some really big shelters as well throughout the country.
What's big? Like, what's big for,
big is 400 kids.
Wow. Okay.
And then you have small is 12 kids.
And
then there's everything in between.
Where's a state you would like to be in that you're currently not in?
Oh, I don't know. If the need is there, I would go.
I don't really have, I've never thought
So
of
it's
it.
not like when you think of it, like when I think about growth, for example, in a business perspective, we would always look at internationally, like top 10 countries, like who's got the highest revenue. So in your case, it'd be who's got the highest potential for domestic abuse. So like, then I look across like the states and I go, well, where would be the opportunity? I just think about it. I was just wondering from a growth perspective, people that want to make an impact and help you, how they can go about doing that.
It's an interesting thing. We have had conversations in terms of expansion. So if we're looking at say 11 shelters that are on our wait list right now, and 2 of them happen to be in the same state where one of our new board members is in, would that make more sense to expand into that state? Because then they have the network there. And so making strategic decisions, yes, based upon that, but I personally don't have a wish of a state. They feel
the need is
exactly what I was going to say.
A child is a child.
Right.
Yeah. Likely there's need everywhere because it's such a an epidemic, you know.
And we have actually reached out through email and phone call to all 800 shelters. So
Wow,
they
that's
know,
beautiful.
right. They know that we, exist. And so, that's the beauty of it. Like,
Mhm.
hopefully they can, we can also take them on.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I could talk to you guys forever, as we can tell, and clearly we haven't had enough time together. And I'd like to give a shout out to both Yanni and Wani, who had connected us in the first place, because they're also both amazing women. And Yanni obviously has been on the podcast as well. So thank you for introducing me to these two amazing women, Melanie and Erica. But before we go, I have another question. My last question that I always like to end on is really understanding, and I think we've hit on actually quite a few of them, because of course I can hear them all. But if you can please tell me from each of your perspectives what your top 5 core values are.
Oh, 5.
5.
Yeah.
I would say being grounded,
Mm-hmm.
big one for me. Being present,
Mm-hmm.
showing strength, and also showing vulnerability too.
Mm-hmm.
And respect and commitment to people that, are that are like me, that I feel it with them and they feel it with me, and loyalty.
Yeah, I see that.
That's where I'm going. Yeah.
Loyalty.
I like it.
I hope that was 5.
Good. It's good.
Okay.
I'm going to take them because I see those all in you.
Oh, thank you.
I do.
I do too, Mel.
Thank you.
I do too. So I quickly in my head went through a value: family,
Mm-hmm.
friendship,
Mm-hmm.
kindness,
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, and being genuine, being loyal.
Authenticity, loyal, integrity.
Authenticity, yes.
I see those things in you as
I'm
well.
gonna add family too, because if I don't say that and the kids want
Well, it's funny because when I coach people through values, I always challenge women around family, because the thing about values is it's easy for women, for us to always say family, because we carry so much of the weight for a family and so much responsibility, as men do as well, but in a different way. But not all choice that we make is always made out of family. So the thing about values is it's truly where we make choice from every decision. But considering what you guys do, I'm not going to challenge you today.
Well, I would say this then, Michelle, because we started talking, I agree with you, actually. So I would say the value is family with boundaries.
Yes. I agree with that. I can see that.
Boundaries is a value.
Yeah, boundaries is a huge value.
Of mine, boundaries.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
It's all of it.
Yeah, I love that. Great perspectives and great little snippet conversation. So we are going to close out now, friends. And I just want to thank you for your time and sharing the value of knowledge, frankly, with everyone. And honestly, the opportunity that you guys took an idea and started it, something from nothing, and are helping so many women and children out there is just such a beautiful gift to the world. So I'd love for you guys to finish by leaving us with anything like, Instagram, any events that you have, people that you want, anything.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah.
I think we, first and foremost, like we said, our big fundraiser is going to be next month, April 22nd, here in Los Angeles, first time in LA. And the first time we are, we've always had women's events. So this is the first time we're going to be opening it up to men and women. It's time to get the men involved in the conversation. So you can go to our website, presentnow.org, to purchase tickets. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Don't ask me to tell you all those handles. I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, anyone, we welcome donations, volunteering. We have lots of volunteering that happens in our office in Santa Monica. So anytime anybody wants to participate, all
And the nice part is that children can participate too in the volunteering. And that was something that came to mind as we were talking. I was like, oh, I need to get my daughter involved, my second daughter involved. So
Yeah,
would love
don't
that.
hesitate. If you are listening to this, send us an email, ask questions, reach out. Somebody will definitely get back to you. You can come visit the office.
Yeah, and they can DM on your Instagram too, and reach the two of you as well. But like I said, what an amazing organization to be a part of, and any little bit that people can give back to give hope to children for their future is amazing. So thank you for what you guys do in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. It's always lovely to see you.
Yeah.
I love you so much. So I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye-bye.